Rubaiyat of Doc Sifers by James Whitcomb Riley. Rubaiyat of Doc Sifers by James Whitcomb Riley. Illustrated Bic. Relier. Published by the Century Company, New York, MDCCCXC7. Copyright 1897 by the Century Co. Copyright 1897 by James Whitcomb Riley. By James Whitcomb Riley. The Davini Press. The Davini Press. To Dr. Franklin W. Hayes, the loyal chum of my latest youth and like friend and comrade still, with all grateful affection of the author. The author. We found him in that faraway that yet to us seems near. We vagrants of but yesterday, when idlest youth was here. When lightest song and laziest mirth possessed us through and through. And all the dreamy summer earth seemed drugged with morning dew. When our ambition scarce had shot a stalk or blade, indeed. Yours, choked as in the garden spot you still deferred to weed. Mine, but a pipe half cleared of pith, as now it flats and whines. In sympathetic cadence with a hiccup in the lines. Aye, even then, O timely hour, the high gods did confer in our behalf, and clothed in power, lo, came their courier. Not winged with flame nor shod with wind, but ambling down the pike. Horseback, with saddlebags behind, and guise all human-like. And it was given us to see, beneath his rustic rind, a native force and mastery of such inspiring kind, that half unconsciously we made obeisance. Smiling thus, his soul shone from his eyes and laid its glory over us, though faring still that far away that yet to us seems near. His form, through mists of yesterday, fades from the vision here. Forever as he rides, it is in retinue divine. The hearts of all his time are his, with your hale heart and mine. Rubaiyat of Doc Sifers. If you don't know Doc Sifers, I'll just argy here and now. Doc Sifers. You've been a mighty little while about here, anyhow. 'Cause Doc he's rid these roads and woods, or swum 'em, now and then. And practiced in this neighborhood since hain't no tellin' when. 2. In radius o 15 miled, all pints o compass round. No man or woman, chick or child, or team, on top o ground. But knows him, yes, and God respects, and leaking fair him, too. Fair all his so to speak defects, o genius showin' through. 3. Some claims he's absent-minded, some has said they was afeard to take his powders when he come and dosed them out, and paired to have his mind on somepin else, like county ditch or some new way o tannin' muskrat pelts, or makin' butter come. 4. He's cur'us, they hain't no mistake about it, but he's got enough o extry brains to make a jury, like as not. They's no describin' ciphers fair, when all is said and done. He's just his Doc Sifers, no they hain't no other one. The Doc's allus sociable, polite, and 'greeable, you'll find. Pervidin' ef you strike him right and nothin' on his mind. Like in some hurry, when they've sent fair ciphers quick, you see, to tend some sawmill accident, or picnic jamboree. 6. Or when the lightnin' 'as struck some harebrained harvest hand, or in some tempt o suicidin', where they'd ort to try AG in. I've knowed Doc haul up from a trot and talk a hour or two, when rarely he'd aort o not stopped fair. Howdy do? 7. And then, I've met him long the road, lopin', starin' straight ahead, and yet he never knowed me when I hollered, "Yate! Old saddlebags!" all hearty like her. "Who you goin' to kill?" And he'd say nothin', only hike on faster, starin' still. 8. I'd been insulted many a time, yef I just wasn't sure Doc didn't mean a thing. And I'm not tetchy any more since that day, yef he'd just stopped to jaw with me. They'd been a little dork or less in my own family. 9. Times now at home, when Cipher's name comes up, I just let on. You know, and I think Doc's to blame, the way he's been and gone. And disappint folks, LLG Monday. You'd ort to then just hear my wife light into me. Ungratefulest o' men! X. 'Mongst all the women, mild or rough, splendiferous or plain, them with sense, are not enough to come in out the rain. Jess ever shape and build and style old women, fat or slim. They all like Doc, and got a smile and pleasant word fair him. 11. There hain't no horse I've ever saw but waddle neigh and try to sidle up to him, and paw, and sense him, ear and eye. Then Jess attach o' Doc's old palm, to pat 'em or to shove along their nose, and they're as see 'em as any cooin' dove. 12. And same with dogs, take any breed, or strain, or pedigree, or racial caste that can't concede no use fair you or me. They'll put all prejudice aside in Doc's case and go in cahoots with him, as satisfied as he was kith and kin. 13. And Doc's a wonder, trainin' pets, he's got a chicken hawk in kind o' half cage, where he sets out in the jardin walk. And got that wild bird trained so tame, he'll loose him, and he'll fly clean to the woods. Doc calls his name, and he'll come, by and by. 14. Some says no money down UD by that bird o' Doc. No. Inducement to the bird, says I, at he'd let Sifers go. And Doc he say at he's content, long as a bird o' prey can bite him, it's a compliment, and takes it that away. 15. But gettin' back to doctorin', all the sick and in distress, and old and poor, and weak and small, and lone and motherless, I jest tell you I 'preciate the man 'at's got the love. 2. Go ye forth and ministrate, as Scripture tells us of. 16. Dull times Doc jest meanders round, in that old rig o' his, and hain't no tellin' where he's bound to guessin' where he is. He'll drive, they tell, jest that-a-way fair maybe 6 or 8 days at a stretch, and neighbors say he's been clean round the state. 17. He picked a old tramp up, one trip, 'bout 80 mile from here, and fetched him home and cured his hip, and kep' him 'bout a year. And feller said, in all his giantess round this terrestrial ball, at no man was a circumstance to Doc, he topped 'em all. 18. Said bark o' trees as a open book to Doc, and vines and moss he read like writin', with a look no'd ever dot and cross. Said stars at night was jest as good as a compass, said he, I s'pose you couldn't lose Doc in the woods the darkest night that blows. 19. Said Doc'll tell you, putty clost by underbrush and plants, how fur off water is, and most predict the sort o' chance you'll have o' findin' fish, and how they're liable to bite, and whether they're abed in now, or only after night. XX. And whilst we're talkin' fish, I mind they formed a fishin' crowd, when folks could fish 'thout gettin' fined, and seinin' was allowed. O leadin' citizens, you know, to go and seine Old Blue, but hadn't no big seine, and so, what was they to do? 21. And Doc he say he thought 'at he could knit a stitch or two. Bring the materials to me, 'at's all I'm astin' you. And down he sets, 6 weeks I jing, and knits that same plumb done. Made corks too, brails and everything, good as a boughten one. 22. Doc's public spirit, when the sick 's not talking all his time, and he's got some fair politics, is simple yet sublime. He'll talk his principles, and they are honest, but the sly friend strikes him first, election day, he'd commodate or die. 23. And yet though Doc, as all men knows, is square straight up and down, that vote o' his is, well I s'pose, the cheapest one in town. A fact 'at's sad to verify, as could be done on oath. I voted Doc myself, and I was criminal fair both. 24. You can corrupt the ballot box, corrupt yourself, as well. Corrupt some neighbors, but old Doc's as uncorruptible as Holy Writ. So put a pin right there, let Sifers be. I jux. He wouldn't vote agin his own worst enemy. 25. When Cynthia Eubanks laid so low with fever, and Doc Glenn told Euby Cynthia'd have to go, they sends fair Sifers then. Doc sighs the case. She's starved, says he. Fair water, yes, and meat. The treatment that she'll get from me 's all she can drink and eat. 26. He orders Euby then to split some wood, and take and build a fire and kitchen stove, and get a young spring chicken killed. and Jess whirled in and tho'd his hat and coat there on the bed. And washed his hands and sailed in that 'ere kitchen, you be said. 27. And biled that chicken broth, and got that dinner, all complete. And clean and crisp and good and hot as mortal ever eat. And synth and you be both'll say 'at Doc'll get as good meals vittles up, Jess any day, as any woman could. 28. Time Sister Abick tuck so bad with striffen o' the lung. P-tract meetin', where she had just shouted, prayed and sung. All winter long, through snow and thaw, when Sifers comes, says he. No, Lissy, don't poke out your raw and cloven tongue at me. 29. I know, without no symptoms but them in Jereber's shoes. You promised me to never put a full foot in the use. At pearl o' your life, he said, and I won't save you now. Unless, here on your dyin' bed, you consecrate your vow. XXX. Without a claim in any creed, Doc's rail religious views. Nobody knows, ne got no need o' knowin' whilst he choose. To be heard not of man, ne raise no loud, vainglorious prayers. In crowded marts or public ways I jux, anywheres. 31. Less en it is away deep down in his own heart, at night. Fast in the storm, when all the town's sleepin' snug and tight. Him splashin' hence from scenes o' pride and sloth and gilded show. To some poor sufferer's bedside o' anguish, don't you know? 32. Or maybe dead o' winter, makes no odds to Doc, he's got to face the weather if it takes the hide off. 'Cause he'll not lie out o' goin' and pretend he's sick hisself, like some 'at I could name 'at folks might send fair and they never come. 33. Like poor Finn Hoover, when he goes to that last dance o' his. That Christmas when his feet was froze, and Doc saved all they is left of 'em. 'Nuff, as Finn say now, to track me by and be a advertisement, anyhow, o' what Doc's done fair me. 34. When he come, knife and saw, Finn say, I knowed, yef I'd the spunk. At Doc you'd fix me up some way, yef nothin' but my trunk was left, he'd fasten casters in, and have me, spick and span. Ace couldn't round the streets agin as spry as any man. 35. Doc sees a patient's got to quit, he'll ease him down serene, as dozin' off to sleep, and yet not dope him with morphine. He won't tell what, just lows that he has aren't the right to sing. O grave, where is thy victory? O death, where is thy sting? 36. And mind ye now, it's not in scoff and scorn, by long degree. At Doc gets things like that enough, it's just his surety and total faith in life to come, wy. From that land o' bliss. He says, we'll have to chuckle some, lookin' back at this. 37. And still in peant, I mind, one night o' initiation at some Sessert Lodge, at Doc set right down on square and flat. When they mixed up some scripture and was funny like, wy he lit in with a reprimand at ripped A to Z. 38. And onct, when General Loafin' Place was old shoe shop, and all the gang you'd get in there and brace their backs against the wall, and settle questions that had went unsettled long enough. Like was no heaven, no torment, just talkin' awful rough. 39. There was Slow Canes and Old Ike Knight and Coonrod Sims, all three against the Bible and the light, and scoutin' deity. Science, says Ike, it demonstrates, it takes nobody's word. Scripture or not, it investigates ef sich things could occurred. XL. Well, Doc he heard this, he drapped in a minute, fair to git a tore off heel pegged on agin, and, as he stood on it, and stomped and grinned, he says to Ike, I suppose now, pretty soon, some lightnin' bug, indignant like, I'll investigate the moon. Sly. No, Ike, says Doc, this world hain't saw no brains like yourn and mine. With sense enough to grasp a law, it takes a brain divine. I've bared the thoughts of brains in doubt, and felt their finest pulse. And mortal brains just won't turn out omnipotent results. 42. And Doc he's got respects to spare the rich as well as poor. says he. I turn no millionaire unsheltered from my door, says he. What's wealth to him in quest o' honest friends to back? And love him fair hisself, not just because he's made his jack. 43. And childern dot, childern? Lawsy day. Doc worships 'em, you call. Round at his house and ASTM, they're a swarmin' there, that's all. They're in his library, in best room, in kitchen, fur and near. In office too, and I piece 'em, his operatin' cheer. 44. You know they's men at bees won't sting, they's plaguey few, but Doc, he's one o' them dot, and same I jing. With children, they jest flock round ciphers natural, in his lap, and in his pockets too, and in his old fur mitts and cap, and heart as warm and true. XLV. It's curus too, 'cause Doc hain't got no children of his own. 'Ceptin' the ones he's tuck and brought up, 'at's been left alone. And orphans when their father died, or mother, and Doc he has he ped their dyin' satisfied dot. The child shall live with me. 46. And Winifred, my wife, he'd say, and stop right there, and CLER. His thot, and go on thinkin' way some mother hearts down here can't never feel their own babe's face a pressin' 'em, na make their naked breasts a restin' place fair any baby's sake. 47. Doc's library, as he calls it, well, they's half a dozen GVS. Jam full o' books, I couldn't tell how many, count yours vs. One whole CFS works on medicine, and most the rest's about First Settlement, and Indians in here, for we drive 'em out. 48. And Plutarch's Lives, and Life also o' Dan Boone, and this here Mungo Park, and Adam Poe, just all the lives they is. And Doc's got all the novels out, by Scott and Dickinson, and Cooper Dot, and I make no doubt he's read 'em ever one. 49. Onct in his office set in there, with crowd o' 8 or 9. Old neighbors with the time to spare, and Doc a feelin' fine. A man rid up from Rollins, jest fair Doc to write him out. Some blame prescription, done, I guess, in minute nigh about dot. L. And I says, Doc, you pair so spry, jest write me that receipt. You have fair bein' happy by, fair that you'd surely beat your medicine, says I dot, and quick as cat. Doc turned and writ, and handed me. Go heapy the sick, and put your heart in it. Lee. And then, a talkin' further 'bout that line o' thought, says he, Yef, we'll jest do the work cut out and give to you and me. We'll lack no joy, na appetite, na all we'd or to eat, and sleep like children ever night, as poor and CM and sweet. Lee. Doc has been cussed o' offishness and lack o' talkin' free, and extry friendly, but he says, I'm feared o' talk. Says he, I've got, he says, a natural turn fair talkin' fit to kill dot. The best and hardest thing to learn is trick o' keepin' still. 53. Doc can smoke, and I s'pose he might drink liquor, jest fair fun. He says, you smoke, you drink all right, but I don't, neither one. Says, I like whiskey, good old rye, but like it in its place. Like that water in your eye, a nose there on your face. Live. Doc's bound to have his joke. The day he got that off on me, I jest had sold a load o' hay at Schofield's livery, and told Doc in the shed they kept the hears in, where I'd hid the stuff 'at got me out o' step, as Sifers said it did. LV. Doc hain't to say no, rollin' stone, and yet he hain't no hand. Fair cumulatin' dot, home as his own, and scrap o' farmin' land. Enough to keep him out the way when folks is tucked down sick. The suddenest, most any day they want him special quick. LVI. And yet Doc loves his practice, na don't, wilful, want to slight. No call, no matter who, how far away, or day or night dot. He loves his work, he loves his friends, June, winter, fall, and spring. His lovin', faxes, never ends, he loves jest everything. 57. Cept, keepin' books. He never sets down no accounts dot, he hates The worst of all, collectin' debts. The worst, the more he waits. I've knowed him, when at last he had to done a man, to end by making him alone, and mad he hadn't more to lend. 58. When Pence's drug store used to be in full blast, they was some. Doc's patients got things frequently there, charged to him, I gum. Doc run a bill there, don't you know, and I'll lose when he squared. He never questioned nothin', so he had his feelin's spared. Licks. Now sich as that, I hold and claim, hain't excusable, it's not professional. It's just a shame at Doc his hain't got no better business sense. That's why lots de respect him more, and not give him the clean go by fair other doctors. Sure. LX. This here Doc Glenn, fair instance, or this little Jackleg Hall. Their business, folks respects 'em fair their business more and all. They ever knowed, or ever will, 'bout medicine. Yet they collect their money, or kill. Their business, anyway. LXI. UAST Jake Dunn. He's worked it out in figures. He can show statistics how docs earned about 3 fortunes in a row. Ever 10-year hand runnin' straight, 3 of 'em, 30-year. At Jake can count and lucidate O's ciphers practice here. 62. Yit, praise the Lord, says Doc. We've got our little home, says he. It's rarely Winifred's, but what she owns, she shears with me. We got our little jardin spot, and peach and apple trees. And stable, too, and chicken lot, and 18 hive o' bees. 63. You call it anything you please, but it's witchcraft, the power. At Cifers has O Hanlon bees, he'll watch 'em by the hour. Mix right amongst 'em, mad and hot and swarmin', yet they won't sting him, or want to, pair to not, at least I know they don't. 64. With me and bees they's no pretense o' sociability. A dad burn bee you'd climb a fence to get a whack at me. I s'pose no thing 'at's got a sting is rarely satisfied. It's sharp enough, ontel I jing. He's honed it on my hide. LXV. And Doc he's always had a knack inventin' things. Deviced. A windlass wound its own SEF back as it run down, and S prized. Their new hired girl with clothesline, too, and clothespins, all in one. But nigh all left fair her to do was get her primpin' done. 66. And on't, I mind, in early spring and tappin' sugar trees. Doc made a dad burn little thing to sharpen spiles with, these here wood spouts that the pests punched out, and drive in where they bore the auger holes. He sharpened 'bout 1,000,000 spiles or more. 67. And Doc's the first man ever swung a bucket on a tree, instead o' troughs, and first man brung grain sugar, so's that he could use it fair his coffee, and fair cookin', don't you know. Folks come clean up from Pleasant Land 'fore they believe it, though. 68. And all Doc's stable doors unlocks and locks there's VS, and gates. The same way, all rigged up like clocks, with pulleys, wheels, and weights. So, as Doc says, drivin' out or in, they'll open, and they'll then all quiet like, shet up Aegean like little gentlemen. 69. And Doc UD made a mighty good detective. Neighbors all will testify to that, or could, if they was legal call. His theories on any crime is worth your listenin' to. And he has hit 'em many a time, long for established true. 70. At this young druggist Whitfield Pence's trial fair his life. On primi facie evidence o' pison in his wife. Doc's testimony saved and read and quitted him and freed him so as he never even paired cog and eyes end of the deed. 71. The facts was, Cifers testified, at inquest he had found. The stomach showed the woman died o' pison, but had downed the dosed herself, because amount and cost o' drug employed. No druggist would, on no account, lavished and destroyed. 72. Doc tracked a blame down Bugla down, and nailed the scamp, to boot. But told him if he'd leave the town he wouldn't prosecute. He traced him by a tied-up thumbprint in fresh putty, where Doc glazed it. Just that's how he come to track him to his lair. 73. Doc's just a leetle too inclined, some thinks, to overlook the criminal and vicious kind we'd ort to bring to book, and punish, thout no extry show o' sympathizin', where they hain't showed none fair us, you know. But he takes issue there. 74. Doc argies at the red-eyed law, as he says, ort to learn to lay a mighty lenient paw on deeds o' sich concern, as only the good bein' knows the wherefore of, and spreads his hands above accused and sows his mercies on their heads. 75. Doc even holds that murder hain't no crime we got a right to hang a man fair, claims it's tain't o' lunacy, or quite dot. Holds sich a man responsible fair murder. Doc says, then, when he's hung, where's the rope to pull them sound mind jurymen? 76. It's in a nutshell, all can see, says Doc, it's silly are the laws, as AP to err as you and me, and kill without a cause. The man most innocent o' sin I've saw, or expect to see, was servin' a life sentence in the penitentiary. 77. And Doc's a whole hand at a fire, directin' how and where to set your ladders lower higher, and what first duties air. Like from in water bucket line, and best man in the town, to chop holes in old roofs, and mind defective chimblies down. 78. Or durin' any public crowd, mass meetin' or big day, where ladies orn't be allowed, as I've heerd Sifers say. When they's a sudden rush somewhere, it's Doc's voice, CM and CLR. Says, fall back, men, and give her air, that's all she's faint and fair. 79. The sorriest I ever feel fair Doc is when some show or circus comes to town, and he'll not get a chance to go, 'cause he just naturally delights in circuses, clean down. From tumblers, in their spangled tights, to trick mule and old clown. 80. And everybody knows it, too, how Doc is, that-a-way. I mind a circus on come through, was there myself that day dot. Ringmaster cracked his whip, you know, to start the ridin', when in runs old clown and hollers, whoa! Ladies and gentlemen. 81. Of this vast audience, I fain would make inquiry CLR, and learn, find out, and ascertain, is Dr. Sifers here? And when some fool voice bellers down, he is. He's settin' in full view o' ye. Then, says the clown, the circus may begin. 82. Doc's got a temper, but he says he's learned it which is boss. Yet has to watch it more or less. I never seen him cross, but on't enough to make him swear milch cow stepped on his toe. And Doc ripped out, I doggies. There's the only case I know. 83. Doc says that's what your temper's fair, to hold back out o' view, and learn it never to occur on out ahead o' you dot. You lead the way, says Sifers, get your temper back in line. And first back the best, yef it's as mean a one as mine. 84. He hates contentions, can't abide a wrangle or dispute, o' any kind, and he'll slide out of a crowd and scoot up some back alley 'fore he'll stand and listen to a verse, when airy one's got upper hand and other one's got worse. 85. Doc says, I spies, when poor and weak and awkward talkers fails, to see it's them with hardest cheek and loudest mouth prevails dot. A all one-sided quarrel make me biased mighty near, 'cause henerly the side I take's the one I never hear. 86. What peals to Doc the most and best is, seein' folks agreed, and talking equal interest and universal heed. Oh, everybody else's words and idees, same as we, was glad and chirpy as the birds, jest as we'd ort to be. 87. And patriotic, like to get Doc started, full and fair, about the war, and why to use he fit, and what was compellished there. And who was wrong, says Doc, or right, to use he waste o' blood and tears. All prophesied in black and white fair years and years and years. 88. And then he'll likely kind o' tetch on old John Brown, and dwell on what his warnin's was, and catch his breath and cough and tell on down to Lincoln's death. And then, well, he just chokes and quits with, I must go now, gentlemen. and grabs his hat, and gets. 89. Doc's own war record was't one so much in line o' fight, as line o' work and nussin' done the wounded, day and night. His was the hand, through dark and dawn, at bound their wounds and laid, as soft as their own mothers on their foots when they prayed. XC. His was the face they saw the first, all dim, but smilin' bright. As they come to and knowed the worst, yet saw the old red, white, and blue where Doc had fixed it where they'd see it wavin' still, out through the open tent flap there, across the winder sill. Sigh. And some say limpin' round here yit, a waitin' last review. You'd give the pensions that they git, and pawn their crutches too, to heap Doc out, yef he was pressed financial, same as he has allus he ped them when distressed, ne never tuck a fee. 92. Doc never was much hand to pay attention to pretense, and fuss and feathers and display in men o' prominence. A rarely great man, Sifers lows, is not the outward dressed, all uniform, salutes and bows, and swellin' out his chest. 93. I met a great man on't, Doc says, and shook his hand. Says he, and he come 'bout in one, I guess, o' disappointin' me. He talked so common like, and brought his mind so celiar in view, and simple like, I put nigh thought, I'm best man o' the two. 94. Yes, sir! Doc's got convictions in old-fashioned kind o' ways, and idees 'bout this glorious land o' freedom, and he'll raise his hat clean off, no matter where, just every time he sees the stars and stripes afloat in there and flappin' in the breeze. 95. And tunes like old red, white, and blue, LL fairly drive him wild. Played on the brass band, marchin' through the streets, just like a child. I've saw that man, his smile just set, all kind o' pale and white, bareheaded, and his eyes all wet, yet dancin' with delight. 96. And yet, that very man we see all trembly, pale and wan. Give him a case o' surgery, we'll see another man. We'll all do the tremblin' then, and we'll all get white around the gills. He'll show us nerve o' nerves, and he'll show us skill o' skills. 97. Then you could toot your horns and beat your drums and bang your guns, and wave your flags and march the street, and charge, all freedom's sons. And Sifers then, I'd bet my hat, you'd never flinch a hair, but steady-handed, tend to that poor patient layin' there. 98. And Sifers is as steady as that hand o' his, he'll shoot a old-style rifle, like he has, and smallest bore to boot, with any fancy rifles made today, or expert shot, at works at shootin' like a trade, and all some of 'em's got. 99. Let 'em go right out in the woods with Doc, and leave there traps, and blame glass balls and queen's weregoods, and see how Sifers draps a squirrel out the tallest tree. And for he fires he'll say just where he'll hit him, yes sir and he's hit that away. See, let 'em go out with him, I jucks, with fishin' pole and gun, and equal chances, fish and ducks, and take the rain or sun, just as it pours or as it blinds the eyesight. Then I guess at they'd acknowledge in their minds their disadvantages. C.I. And yet he'd be the last man out to flop his wings and crow, insultin' like, and strut about above his fallen foe. No, sir! The hand that tucked the wind out o' their sails UDB, the very first they grabbed, and grinned to feel sich sympathy. C.I. Doc gets off now and then and takes a huntin' trip somewhere 'bout Kankakee, up 'mongst the lakes, sometimes'll drift round there in his canoe a week or two, then paddle clean on back, by way o' Old Wabash and Blue, with fish, all he can pack. See, and wild ducks, some with feathers on 'em yet, and stuffed with grass. And neighbors, all knows he's been gone, comes round and gets a base, a great big double-breasted rock, black, or maybe pear, half fills the ordinary crock. Doc's fish LL give out there. Sieve. Long for his ducks, but folks'll smile and blandish him, and make him tell things, all the while enjoy jes fair sake. Oh, please in him, and then turn in and line ch him from the start. A tellin' all the things Aegean they rarely know by heart. CV. He's jes a child, s what Sifers is. Answer, I'd ruther see that happy, childish face o' his, and poor simplicity. Than any shape or style or plan o' mortals otherwise. With perfect faith in God and man a shinin' in his eyes.